Welcome to the 14th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, 1966 team captain Mike Irwin, and Casey Kantz of WTAJ Sports. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the NitWits on AltoonaMirror.com.
And a good evening to you. Welcome to another edition of the NitWits. The guys are all here. Penn State able to edge Purdue on Saturday, 23-18, improved to 6-1 on the year. But, Neil, it's another tight game against not the best of opponents. Your quick observations of yesterday.
Well, both teams mastered keeping the other in the game, and I can't recall, such a scenario. Just a comedy on both sides at times. Just so many missed opportunities.
You said you still liked the game, though. I heard you.
I thought it was an entertaining game. It was, but I just think both teams. Neither one of them at this point are all that good. I thought Purdue played better than I thought they were going to, and Penn State I don't think played up to their potential yesterday.
Mark, still a team that's perfect in conference play, and they are 6-1.
Yeah.
But what'd you think?
Is there any such thing as a 5-point blowout? I mean, I never got the sense that Penn State was really in trouble. Maybe on that goofy end around to Davon Smith where he fumbled, but he recovered it. And the thing about this team is it is finding ways to make plays in the clutch and to win games. I know the schedule's not been great, but I think there's really something to be said for that. Now all of a sudden you're going into late October. No team outside of Wisconsin looks like it's unbeatable. So this team, it can still do some things. It's there for this team to maybe get into that late November against Wisconsin and have a chance to be in the Big Ten title mix.
Mike, what'd you think?
Well, I follow up with what Mark was saying. I think this team being 6-1, they've had to respond in a lot of games, and I think they've responded every time they had to. You start with the kickoff return by Chaz Powell, and then the great punt by Farrer to pin them down in there, and then the other play, the defense responded in the last two series. Like they were 3 and out in the next last series, and then when they got them down there, they held them. So I think they've been winning, and I think that's a sign of a good team when you can respond and win under those circumstances.
How about the rushing attack? Neil Silas read a third straight 100-yard game, another touchdown for him.
Yeah, I think they found their identity with him. I didn't think the offensive line necessarily had their best game. Both quarterbacks were flushed and hit a little bit. But, I think that the running game and the defense, I was surprised that Purdue ran as effectively on Penn State as they did.
There was an emotional letdown for the defense. I mean, guys admitted that after as much as they had put into the Iowa game and holding Iowa to 3 points, that there just wasn't that juice in the locker room. But having said all that, they came up with turnovers when they needed them. I mean, Penn State now has 17 turnovers on the year, which is as many as it had in 13 games last year. 11 interceptions. They had 10 all of last year. So it was not a great game for the defense, but they made plays in the clutch, and that's kind of been par for the course for them this year.
We'll talk a little bit more about the defense coming up in the next block. You want to talk about play calling a little bit, though, didn't you?
Well, they keep running a reverse, and I don't quite get it. They ran one with 14 seconds to go in the first half. When, I thought, you talk about your red zone problems, chance to throw it in the end zone there. And I just thought on both sides of the ball it was a little questionable. You look late in the game, Purdue doesn't catch that punt that was at like the 15. Instead, it gets down to the 2. So that's why I say both teams kind of kept each other in the game. But Penn State has tried the reverse repeatedly, and it really hasn't worked that well.
Have they I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I'd echo Neil's remarks about, Davon Smith, that reverse to him. When you're down there, you're on the 15-yard line or whatever it is and trying to drive the ball, why do you start with that? And the other one is on the defensive side of the ball. Most of the third down plays, I mean, those cornerbacks are playing off, and they're completing those short passes. I think this week with Persa, they'll be looking for some of those short ends, and hopefully we'll tighten up the defensive corners. But it seems like they let them come in there and make the first downs, and a couple times on Saturday, Purdue came in there and made some key third down plays.
The end around, I mean, I want to go back to that. They ran it 3 times Saturday for a net of, 2 yards. 0.67 yards per carry, plus a precarious fumble that Davon Smith was lucky to recover. I just don't get it. I mean, in that game, they ran the ball 48 times. I know they weren't getting, 7, 8 yards per carry, but why would you go to – they keep going to it. It just doesn't work.
Well, the other call that I thought was bad is when they had the ball right at the end of the first half on the goal line, and there's 17 seconds left in the half, and they run that reverse to
Neil mentioned that. Yeah.
Brown. Did you mention that? I missed that. I wasn't paying attention.
I know you're getting ready with your next.
He's got to get ready for his pick.
I start to listen to you more carefully.
And also, I know, Jay talks about you got to score before you get to the red zone, so they tried, but they throw the ball into the wind. They're aiming for Belton with a chance to maybe put the game away with some hard running, and Purdue hanging on in the fourth quarter, and that kind of turned the game.
There's only 2 guys out in the pattern there. I mean, if you go back and look at that play, I don't know what – I mean, that's the one thing that really scares you with McGloin. I think overall he's played well, but he takes some ridiculous chances, especially when they're in or near the red zone. He's got to stop that.
That's 2 straight weeks, right?
He threw into triple coverage also. He's been somewhat elusive, and I think is an MVP candidate of this team.
Sure, yeah.
But 2 weeks in a row with the bad interception.
That's going to come back to bite you.
Exactly. Guys, just getting started on this post-Purdue edition of the Nitwits. When we come back, we talked a little bit about the defensive struggles yesterday. I think we were all a little bit surprised that Purdue was able to run as well as they did. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up next.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By the bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental.
I'm senior defensive tackle Devin Steele, and you're watching the Nitwits.
Thank you much, Devin. Welcome back to the show. The Penn State defense has been so good to this point. Yesterday, though, guys, maybe the word would be survive. They gave up 162 yards on the ground, most of those coming in the first half. But we haven't really seen a team be able to run on this defense like this. Concerns? Not so much?
It looked to me like they took some bad angles, on a couple of the misdirections, and Purdue kept them off balance. And Tom Bradley said they were a little flat, he felt, to start the game.
Yeah, I mean, some of the players, Devin Still said prior to the game, they were trying to get people amped, but you would expect some sort of emotional letdown after getting that Iowa monkey off their backs. The thing that was really troubling in that game, they gave up the longest rush play against them all year. I think this was it right here. And then later, the longest pass play against them all year. And, there was a little blurb there before, bend but don't break. They did break a couple times. I mean, they got into the end zone and a lot of people were talking about, hey, why not blitz more? Why not blitz more? Afterward, Tom Bradley blinded Neil with stats and said this is more of a sprint-out team, doesn't really pass from the pocket as much as maybe Iowa did, so that's why they weren't blitzing as much.
That's his specialty.
Yeah.
If I could, we've mentioned it a couple of times now in the early portions of this broadcast, but the post-game, when the guys were talking about they weren't as amped as they would be for this game, that, I don't know, that just kind of concerns me a bit that it's, it's a big game. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just saying like a 12 o'clock day game, and then coming off that win last week, it was an emotional win. it's hard to get up for every game, especially at 12 o'clock, I think, when you're coming out there. And don't forget another thing, that Purdue is like the 25th best rushing team in the country. So they are a pretty good team, and I know their coach, Danny Hope, said that they've been getting better every game. So it's not, I mean, the defense responded, I guess, when they had to, but they did give up a lot of yardage. I guess as long as you respond and come back, I'm more satisfied with what they did later on.
I'd kind of like to shout out on the special teams because I thought that was really the difference in the game. Farah has been a monster. He's played tremendous. He got a 40-yarder yesterday. It's a windy day. Kicks a 69-yard punt with the game on the line that the kid from Purdue probably should have caught. But Powell breaks the game open with a 92-yard kickoff return. They get a 33-yard punt return from Justin Brown. I thought they really blocked. The only negative was they allowed a 71-yard kickoff return.
And even on that play, I mean, it was nice to see Stephon Morris hustle back and make the tackle on that play. Listen, I've been very critical of their special teams, especially early in the year, and, I think rightfully so. But this was a game where, as much flack as they take, this was a game where overall they picked it up. And you're right, Farah, to me, was the MVP of that game.
It seems they've ironed out those kicking issues that we talked about early in the year. Mike, what do you think about
that? Every time Farah's had the opportunity, I think early in the year we had other people in there, but Farah responded. Like Neil said, he averaged over 44 a punt, and he had a 128-yarder when he was trying to hit it inside the 20. So then to come up with that 69-yard punt.
Yeah.
And who was it? Suke, I think, that went down and tapped it back in. So you got to commend them for their special.
I only want to know what Mike Irwin, when you brought it back 75 yards against West Virginia for a touchdown, Mike, what your response would have been. Powell flipped the ball in the air. I just thought it was one of the worst calls I've ever seen.
That was horrible at that point.
I've been there before, Dale, so I didn't have to throw it in the air. I just threw it down. No, I hate to see that. It's almost like taking the game away from the team.
It could have been huge.
I think it was a call that I don't think should have been made.
No.
Well, Neil's the pool reporter and actually talked to the official. I mean, what did he tell you?
Well, first he said that they announced it as number 6, but he said it's a point of emphasis. He threw the ball in the air, and it was just pretty cut and dry to him. It wasn't like he had it was any wiggle room that he shouldn't have called.
Well, all I know is every time that Vit Vote or whatever his name is officiates a game, something bizarre happens, and clearly you know it. I mean, as soon as the game starts, something goofy. You had that play. You had a play they should have turned over on the Suke interception that worked in Penn State's favor. But boy, whenever you see that guy at the start of a game, it's like, please, this is going to be crazy.
I mean, he's had a long career as an official, and officiating doesn't seem to be a younger man's sport. You see it in the NFL a lot, but like yesterday, a lot of running, and it was 3 hours and 20 minutes. It takes Vitvo's crew longer to process.
Well, that could have been a huge turning point at that point. Unfortunately, it worked in Penn State's favor. Guys, as for our next segment, it wouldn't really be a Nitwits without a discussion about the quarterback situation, and we're going to talk just all about that coming up on the other side. Stay with us.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs.
Hey, I'm Penn State wide receiver Derek Moore, and you're watching the Nitwits.
Alrighty, welcome back, guys. 7 weeks in, and we're still talking about the ever-intriguing quarterback situation at Penn State. Rob Bolden started again yesterday. Matt McGloin, once again, though, sees the majority of the action. Bolden actually created some early chemistry with Brandon Mosby-Felder, led to Penn State's first touchdown, but still it is McGloin through 7 weeks. Still looks like he's out playing Bolden.
Yeah, the funny thing to me is in the post-game press conference, I think it was the first time all year that Joe Paterno was not asked about the quarterbacks. That kind of jumped out at me. I think everybody's just kind of taking it for what it is. Yeah. Everybody's been beaten down.
He's worn us.
He's worn us out.
You won, Joe. You won, I guess. Yeah. Until you lose.
But I still contend that McGloin's playing much better football. He should be the guy. He's not great, okay? But the play in that game that really jumped out at me, it was when Bolden was under heavy pressure. Everybody in the stadium knew the rush was coming, and he did not feel it at all. And he got hammered, he fumbled, he recovered, and that's the thing. He just does not have that pocket presence in the feel for things that McGloin has. It's not there.
And the other thing is, you wonder when this situation is going to come back. I mean, it took McGloin. It was a little chilly yesterday, windy. McGloin wasn't sharp in the first half. It's hard to come off. The announcers made this point. When you warm up and then you come out and basically stand there for a half hour. And McGloin had a very easy throw on his first throw, and he short hopped it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a product. And Bolden looked good on the first drive, and then he looked really bad on the next drive. So
Well,
he
actually, it was the second drive where he looked good.
Right.
The first drive he didn't do
You're
anything. But I said this last week, and I still wonder. I mean, he had a little easy pass to Davon Smith, and he missed them all together. And I'm wondering, can you take him aside in practice and just go over and throw some easy balls over there?
He's been doing
I
that.
wonder,
free
the guy's
throws.
been around
Do
for a long
something.
time.
He's been doing that,
Well, you'd
though.
think they at least teach him how to float one
I know
out
it.
there and make it easy.
We talk about it every week. It just seems like he's got the guy and he'll throw it into the ground. Or
Let me make one other
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
I think they're going to continue the Bolden starting and McGloin coming in. It's been successful at 6-1. I mean, I'm not sure it's great. I mean, Bolden did lead us down the field at Temple in the last drive to score, and McGloin's done it a couple times. And
They've stuck with McGloin in the clutch these last couple of
Right.
weeks. After the game, I asked Jay, because it looks like in the wake of the Bolden transfer talk that maybe they just said, "Look, we'll promise you he'll be the starter." But he said no, they never did that, and he said Bolden never asked for anything. They only asked for an opportunity.
And they would tell you if that was happening, though, right? I mean, they would be, yeah, absolutely, that's what happened.
But the other thing, don't you think it would ruin Bolden if they start McGloin right now? I mean, and they could only go too deep as far as I can see, and I'm not even sure how good these top two are, but if you get to your third-team quarterback, we could be in big trouble.
But I would argue, Mike, if that's going to ruin him, he shouldn't be playing quarterback at Penn State. If you can't handle coming off the bench, listen, Silas Redd came off the bench last year. Derek Moy came off the bench early in his career. A lot of really good players have come off the bench. Kajana Carter, a lot of quarterbacks. Darryl Clark came off the bench.
Well,
this kid should be able to handle it.
But I think they're nursing him along. I mean, next year we probably have another quarterback or two coming in and could probably start the game. So
I don't
at
know
this
about
point,
that,
with
Mike. That means
well, they got the freshman from Philadelphia.
Yeah, but
Jones.
if you're going to be relying on a freshman quarterback, Joe said to the TV crew that Devlin's transfer affected him in the way he perceives the whole quarterback situation. My only question is, I think Pat Devlin might have been more advanced than Bolden is right now.
I want to quickly get to receivers, too, because Derek Moy obviously out with a broken foot yesterday. But we saw guys like Justin Brown, sophomore Brandon Mosby-Felder pick up the slack a little bit. I saw some great signs from those guys yesterday.
Justin Brown had a tremendous catch, one of the best catches of the year.
There it is.
And Mosby-Felder, that was a key play, and that was a nice ball that Bolden threw, low, the only place that that the receiver could catch it, and no one else could.
Brown's a guy who hasn't really been living up to expectations. I think I don't know if he would say that, but he's kind of been in the shadow, and this is an opportunity for him to step up. Listen, you never want to lose a quality player like Moy, but now you have a negative. Why not try to make a positive? Brown is a guy who's played a lot of football, but Mosby-Felder, maybe get some of these other guys, the Kerseys and some of these other kids. You mentioned Belton to step up and get some things done while Moy is out. Hopefully Moy is only out for a couple of weeks. Senior, you hope he gets back for the stretch run, but this is an opportunity for some other guys.
See, that's my point. I don't think you're going to replace a Derek Moy.
Yeah.
I think he's so good. He's obviously the best receiver they've had down there in some time, and hopefully he comes back. I think they're just trying to get through these couple games without him, and they have some other capable receivers, but I don't think you have another Derek Moy there.
Mike, you've been waiting all show for your picks, and they're coming up next.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I'm excited. All right.
A trip to Northwestern on tap for next week, and our picks are on the way. Stay with us. You're watching the NitWits.
The Nitwits are brought to you by J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday.
Now back to NitWits. A roundtable look at Nittany Lion football.
Indeed it is. Welcome back. A night game at Northwestern is up next. Cats coming off a 10-point loss to Iowa last night, and in between the break we kind of tossed this around a little bit, but this was a game on the schedule that we circled that could be a potential loss.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on this?
Well, you look at a guy, Dan Persa, obviously a Pennsylvania guy who played pretty well against Penn State last year. They had that big lead in Happy Valley. Let it get away from them. Paterno wins his 400th game, and you would have figured that this might be a game Northwestern playing for revenge, all those things, but all of a sudden they've lost 4 straight games, and that program seems to be really, really struggling. Offense pretty good. Defense obviously terrible.
Neil?
Yeah, I mean, Fitzgerald was kind of a fair-haired boy about a year ago with the job he's done at Northwestern, and Iowa they can't score at all against Penn State, puts 41 on them. So, yeah, it's the league is really average right now, and I think it's unfortunate. There's Illinois that might have been a chance to come into Penn State possibly undefeated and a chance for a marquee win for Penn State, and I'm not sure that'll be the case if Penn State's fortunate to get by this week.
Let's get the picks out of the way. What do you say? Mark Brennan is our nitwit of the week, and he's going to pick first.
I want to roll what he said during the break.
Hold on a second. That's all completely off the record. I deny anything that's attributed to me from the break. Really, the Northwestern defense has struggled, giving up 40 a game in Big Ten play. I don't think Penn State's going to quite get to 40. I'm going to go Northwestern 21, Penn State 30. The old reverse pickaroo there.
Sound like Dean DeVore.
Yeah, I tried to have some fun.
Threw us off there a bit. Neil?
Okay. Penn State has not played well on the road, and this is another road venue that is not overly intimidating when you consider that they were at Temple and Indiana and now Northwestern. It'll get a little worse in Columbus and Madison later. I'd say I'm calling for a Penn State offensive breakout, say Penn State 27, Northwestern 17.
Squeezing up.
I have to change my pick then, I think.
No, you don't.
Can I go with the same one? 'Cause that's what I was going to go.
Well, that's right. You both
How
be
about-
losers.
yes.
You both be losers.
We'd have to
Well, go ahead,
refer the
change it.
criteria to Chris
I know,
Owens.
Casey, this is
I don't do well in these
You're going to have to
situations.
change this around a little bit.
Then you're going to go.
Come
You're
up with
gonna,
another-
you have
you want- here, I'll go
30
next.
seconds. Yeah.
Let me go next because
Use 20 of them.
last year Persa rushed for over 100 yards against us and threw for a couple hundred yards. And Penn State's defense is going to have to contain Persa. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Last year's score was Penn State 35, Northwestern 21. I think it's going to be a repeat of last year. 35, Penn State 21, Northwestern.
I got 31-17 Penn State. We're out of time, guys. We'll see how we did. Northwestern up next. We'll talk to you next week.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, a firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Howells and Reed, orthodontics for children and adults. By The Bookstore in the Park Hills Plaza, featuring the area's most complete selection of books, DVDs, and magazines. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just Ask Rental. By Pacifico's Bakery, genuine Italian bread and rolls for your tailgating needs. By the Altoona Professional Hearing Aid Center, your hearing aid healthcare professional. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. Your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By J&P Auto, home of the $1,000 push, pull, or tow. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By the easy-to-use Big Book. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State game day every Friday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.